Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. I'm Bernie Escalante, a lieutenant with the police department. I'm also here with Deputy Fire Chief Mark Ramos from the fire department. Basically discussing the regional emergency response and rescue vehicle. It consists of, it's a basic Ford F550 diesel pickup. It's fully armored. It is built specifically for municipal law enforcement. It carries up to 12 members or 12 people. It's an all-terrain vehicle, four-wheel drive, and it provides maximum ballistic protection to all first responders and community members. It'll be intended to be used during emergency events such as life-threatening public safety events, mass casualties, events such as active shooters. It will be utilized to conduct rescues in natural disasters such as the 1989 earthquake. Provides protection to the first responders. It also, as Deputy Fire Chief Ramos mentioned, it could be utilized during protection of the firefighters during volatile situations such as our recent hash oil fires where we had rocketing butane canisters flying through the air. They could utilize this vehicle as protection for them. These are just a few examples of when the vehicle would be utilized.
I know when I read the staff report, it wasn't really clear to me, what the vehicle was exactly, and the chief was kind enough to send me a picture of it. Is there a picture? Does anyone have a picture here that the public can see? Okay. So I did look up Lenco Bearcat, so at least I have an idea what it looks like, although I'd love it if the public could see it. It does look a little scary, at least the pictures I saw for the Bearcat. It looks like an army vehicle kind of, but obviously it doesn't have guns or anything. And then my last question, could this be used in a protest situation, if things are getting out of hand or the police need it to, get into a protest to help people that were wounded, et cetera, et cetera? Could you imagine using it in a protest?
I can't imagine it being used during a protest. This vehicle is, I think maybe some of the fear is probably the way it's constructed because of the level of ballistic protection. And most protests don't rise to that level.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for the police chief. If we reconsidered this item to our next agenda, which isn't until January, obviously, would it in any way imperil the potential for getting the funding for this purpose?
We actually do have a timeline insofar as how long we have to spend the $250,000. I don't know what that is.
It would imperil the project.
Yeah.
What is the timeline? How long do we have to spend the money?
We have a limited window with UASI for the $220,000, which is the base for it, and then we have a window until March to have it completely expended, billed, shipped, and placed here for the additional $31,000 that's coming from the state Homeland Security. So a delay would imperil our ability to get the $220,000. We have just a short amount of time, really through the remainder of the year, to expend that money and seek reimbursement from the city and county of San Francisco.
Thank you. I'm a little torn about this now because, like I said before, I see it as a legitimate vehicle for the police usage, but I feel like we've had a bad process where we don't really have time to really flesh out the concerns of the community in another meeting. So I tried to do an amendment, which admittedly wasn't, the most inclusive or best amendment ever, but it was on the fly, and the council didn't go for it. So, if I vote against it, I'd want the police to know that it's not that I'm against the vehicle necessarily, but this process, I don't think, let me finish, but I don't think the process has been good, and I think the community has really legitimate concerns about new police tools.
Thank you. At your last meeting, the City Council voted 6-1 to approve a grant from Homeland Security to buy an armored personnel carrier for the Santa Cruz Police Department. Many of us here were surprised by that action. We think safety needs for police and citizens can be met without bringing an anti-terrorism SWAT-style vehicle to town. I'd like to show part of a promotional video from Lenco, which makes the Bearcat, which is the vehicle that was displayed.
Able to hear what you're saying.
On the police department was notified that they received a grant from Homeland Security in May. You weren't notified about this for 7 months until December 2nd. On December 9th, police representatives told you that the grant would disappear if you didn't vote on it that night. Please rescind the grant approval and organize a public study session about this grant and the Bearcat and the process by which grants come to City Council and come to the Santa Cruz Police. Also, please implement a procedure that used to exist for Santa Cruz that requires police to notify the City Council and the public before they apply for grants. Thank you very much. You'll hear more details.
Good evening. I am Ron Pomerantz, and I am speaking tonight as the representative of Santa Cruz Resistance Against Militarization. As a retired, I should also let you know that this group represents about 25 supporting organizations. As a retired fire captain in San Jose, I unequivocally agree that the safety of first responders, as well as potential victims, is vitally important. But the Bearcat is not how to do this. This purchase should have been subject to further review by the council and the public. Finally, tonight we are, once again, very little written information in advance to scrutinize and to verify. There's similar scenarios playing out across the country as both the Department of Homeland Security and the Pentagon dole out military and military-type equipment to local police departments. Local officials across the country have to decide whether to take the equipment. That determination ought to be the product of a robust public discussion because the type of equipment that the police use have a profound effect on all of us. As the events unfolded in Missouri, we've all seen the Ferguson police by meeting a large public protest with a show of armored military force, and it made an already extremely difficult public safety situation even worse. So the public is obviously affected by the choice by local police to use military-style hardware, as are the police as well as other first responders. The public has every right to know, have every right to be involved in this decision, provided with all the necessary and appropriate information. All this before it's acquired, not after. So this vehicle is also to enhance SWAT operations. That's also part of the in the application. So in effect, it's an enhanced armored personnel carrier, which are vehicles designed to carry people through war zones. There may be a few Santa Cruzans who think Santa Cruz is a war zone, but I don't think there's too many. So why do we need an armored personnel carrier? I have no doubt that we can think of ways, if I can, anyway, this is law enforcement. If you can make it, yeah. Thank you. So I'm really begging to disagree that this is a military type, could be used in military operations. So why do we need this type of vehicle? Where's the demonstrated need? And what were the alternatives? In Iraq, they need armored personnel carriers. In Afghanistan, they need armored personnel carriers. Hundreds of places around the world, they need these armored personnel carriers. But in Santa Cruz, we don't need an armored personnel carrier. It's a Faustian bargain. That's a deal with the devil. Can you do my next slide, please? Let's see. If we had to pay $250,000 for this thing for our local police, in the local budget, the proposal to purchase it would never have seen the light of day. It took the Department of Homeland Security with the bribe offer. But we seem to be under the illusion that because we're paying for it through federal accounts, it's free. It's not. We will pay the cost of blurring the distinction between police and military institutions and between war and law enforcement. We pay the cost in trust and credibility. That is the cornerstone of community policing. We have just ended an election with new city council members. Time and again, the candidates express their belief in nonviolent interventions and more compassionate and sensitive approach to homelessness and addiction, and are the focus of so much of our police resources. This is the zone we're in. We'll need every ounce of trust and credibility between the community and the police if we're going to make progress in these areas. Having our police draw from and pattern after the tenets of militarism and the military model is a giant step away from community policing, where relationships are essential and humanitarian compassionate policing must be accomplished. And acquiring this attack truck is a distraction from more immediate and real local public safety problems. Homelessness, addiction, mental illness, sexual assaults, domestic violence, gang violence, burglaries. That's where the effort should be. Solutions to these pressing problems will not be solved from the back of an attack truck.
Good evening, council members and the public. My name is John Homan. I'm a retired police lieutenant with Scotts Valley Police Department, and I currently live in Scotts Valley. I have a 22-year-old niece who wanted to follow in my footsteps ever since she was in high school, and now she is a Santa Cruz police officer. I sometimes hope I don't regret this due to the inherent dangers of being a police officer in this profession. I simply find it absurd that some citizens and groups want to dictate what equipment a police department feels is necessary to perform their duties. These individuals are misinformed about the issues which lead to their false assumptions. Santa Cruz PD does have a SWAT team. For those that are misinformed, SWAT stands for Special Weapons and Tactics, and they need specialized equipment. Any legitimate functioning SWAT team has an armored vehicle. It obviously serves many purposes. It acts as a launching point when conducting their missions. The launch point is the last form of cover or protection for the team before serving high-risk warrants. Once they leave this point, their risk severely increases when entering a home or business when executing a search or arrest warrant. The state's decline in funds and programs to serve the mentally ill leaves many cities' police forces dealing with these individuals. They are unpredictable, just as in the case of Shannon Collins and a Santa Cruz PD officer who was injured by a knife-wielding subject. The armored vehicle is a great tool to approach these types of individuals. Everybody should watch the North Hollywood shooting, and I urge you not to be influenced by these fear-mongering individuals to have a vehicle for the protection of your law enforcement agency and the protection of their citizens. Thank you.
After all of the people that have talked about the need for a Bearcat, it's going to be really crowded in there. When you get your paramedics and you get your firefighters and you get your police officers and let's see, oh, you get your SWAT team. So it seems to me that I should recommend that we buy a fleet that every officer can only possibly be protected if he drives around in a Bearcat. Otherwise, you're all vulnerable, and nobody made you put on that bulletproof vest, and nobody made you carry that gun. That's a choice that you made, and don't diminish our freedoms and our democracy by militarizing this community. Thank you.
There is danger to our loved ones. Dangers to the sisters and brothers, the husbands and wives, the daughters and sons, and mothers and fathers who make up the police department. Law enforcement officers and first responders literally put their lives on the line every day they go to work, despite the risk, to protect you, and all of you.
Hi, I'm Lorna Grundeman. I'm a nurse at Dominican Hospital. I've worked there for 27 years in critical care, and I'm here to address the mayor and city council about this issue. Our union, that is the CNA, National Nurses United, is opposed to the use of the armored tanks in Ferguson, Missouri, and we also stand opposed to them in Santa Cruz, California.
take.
There's no doubt in our union's view that these tanks are intended to injure people, and we raise our voice in opposition to them in the name of the public's health. Of particular concern to us is the potential use in peaceful, nonviolent, constitutionally protected peaceful assembly. In our world, that means picket lines, other displays of labor's rights and responsibilities to gather and inform the general public about any given struggle of unions and working people. Please reject this form of policing and instead employ the principles and practices of community networking, including with law enforcement. Make the choice to protect public health and reject this kind of militarized policing. Thank you very much.
Mayor Lane and members of the City Council, I stand before you today in support of the rescue vehicle and a member of the community majority in support of the Santa Cruz Police Department. I had a different speech prepared for tonight, but something much more important and directly related to this matter has come up. And as we said before, as we speak, one officer has been shot and killed in San Jose, and a significant operation is underway in a several block area for a person armed with a high-powered rifle. People watching this at home, go ahead, pull out your phones, and look it up. They are deploying their armored rescue vehicle for this purpose right now. This is just a short drive from here. Now, do we understand? Is it not clear to everyone the purpose of this vehicle? There is no polite way to put this. The people before you today with the anti-tank signs have blood on their hands.
I'm going to be reading a letter from Deborah Ellis, but on a personal, I just want to say that, I hope that the City Council does consider rescinding the approval of the grant solely based on lack of transparent process and really consider the ways that we can bring fair and transparent process in regards to bringing military vehicles and any kind of equipment. I cannot say for sure if a Bearcat is what this community needs to be feeling safe and secure, but I do know that it's really hard to trust your protectors if you fear them. So anyway, I'm going to read this from Deborah Ellis. Dear Mayor Lane and City Council members, I'm unable to attend March 24th, although I remain fully engaged in the discussion and outcome. The night marks a critical juncture in our community. Join the ever-increasing militarization of society or reject this approach for creating just, secure community. From a new vantage point, the roads, homes, hospitals, the UN camps and war-torn communities in Iraq and Palestine, where she is currently, where the same vehicle designs have become commonplace, it's easy to see the following. Military vehicles used to occupy and destroy lives. Companies making Bearcats are turning hefty profits and looking for new domestic markets. Military economies are profitable for few but disadvantaged for many. Military attitudes, uniforms, equipments become viral. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, always. Militarized equipment, vehicles, and agendas alienate people, and nothing is free. There is cost in accepting funds from an agency that violates constitutional rights and international and human rights law.
You have my email. I'm not going to read that. I'm going to continue this letter. I have registered my strong objection to City Council's lack of transparency, process, and ultimately the purchase of the ballistic engineered armored response counter-attack truck, the Bearcat, made by Lencon in her verbal statement on December 2014. She still holds that position. I am directly observing, this is in the Mideast, how these vehicles alienate power from the people and elicit fear in the public. Please do not be swayed by one incident, the tragic loss of 2 of our officers and friends, which may or may not have been changed with the protection of an armored vehicle. But if you must, consider securing a vehicle other than one with military design and implication. We've all seen the ad. Remember, the terror market was born out of just such emotional appeal in 2001, which spawned the design of the armored response counterattack vehicles, adding to war crimes we can never repair. So she sees them coming home from the Mideast and the market being big and being marketed to all our police departments here in America. Let's turn a new page in U.S. history here in the city of Santa Cruz and say no to militarizing another community under the false security claim. With respect and expectation, Deborah Ellis.
There's a lot of talk about militarization in the military. I can't help but go there. My dad was a young Marine out of Santa Cruz, and he was in a little battle called Quezon. On that mountain hill, he had nothing but piles of dead Marines, a few of them left, and the enemy. But there were other people on that hill that weren't there that day. They were thousands of miles away, and they're politicians who were more concerned about policy, ropes, chains, and duct tape on the men and women who know what they need and when they need it and they need it now. The men and women of the Santa Cruz Police Department have done nothing but stand beside us and protect us. They have asked us for this Bearcat. They have earned this Bearcat, and we should give them this Bearcat for our entire community. Do not, as politicians, care more about the chance, the size of the sign, the amount of people you have show up, and think you know more about policy making than the men and women who serve and protect you. The politician who thinks they know more about protecting people than those who sacrifice their lives every single day need to check themselves. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm with the Romero Institute, which is an interfaith law and policy center, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was founded in 1980, and we have 40 years of national experience in D.C. and other states working on constitutional rights issues, human rights issues, and environmental issues, and we are dedicated to uncovering serious structural problems and then working on what the true solutions to that would be. And it's troubling to hear some of the dialogue that's going on, because the first responders who face very serious things every day are trying to solve something, in my opinion, that is much deeper and much more complicated. This isn't a question of whether we care about the first responders. We do. It's a question of, can we address problems at a deeper level and figure out solutions that will really make a difference, or are we going to put on Band-Aids that will cause more problems?
Irene O'Connell, Tatanka Burka, and Regina Henderson should be lined up. All right, go right ahead.
Hello,
Thank you.
City Council members. My name is Chrissy Hansen. I'm a local elementary school teacher. My husband is a Santa Cruz police officer. I am in favor of anything, any tool, any safety tool that helps keep my husband, our police family, and the community safe. I believe every one of you would do the same if it were your family that were in danger. I would do anything to protect my students at our local school, any danger at all. Please consider the Bearcat as a safety tool for not only our police department, but for our community, and to keep my husband safe and to let him come home every night. Thank you.
And I would like to say, too, I've been very upset by the tone tonight. There's a lot of kind of us and them talk, and the idea that anybody who is against the Bearcat must have some kind of animosity towards the police. My grandchildren's father is on the SWAT team in Salinas. There needs to be a public, transparent, unrushed process for citizen involvement on expenditures for controversial items of all types, from the Bearcat to the desalination plant. As a first step, I suggest that all proposed grants and expenditures be brought to the council in a timely fashion.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to show support. I know Regina wanted to show support too for the acquisition of the Bearcat. I have numerous friends that are law enforcement officers, that are firefighters, and my sister and my brother-in-law are both first responders for AMR, as well as numerous friends work for AMR too. And for people who see this as a militarization of our community, take a step back from your hatred of the police department and think about the people that are first responders. That my sister she doesn't carry a gun with her. She doesn't have a bulletproof vest. She's 28 years old, has a 6-month-old baby at home, and she needs something to protect her when she goes in to save people. I wish people would take away from the militarization of this and just see what it is. And it's a rescue vehicle to help people like my sister and family members. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Lane and City Council members. My name is Drew Glover. I'm a citizen and born and raised here in Santa Cruz. I've been taking notes throughout the entire night. It's going to be impossible for me to get through all of them. But I think, just from our last speaker, what we just heard is this incredible divisiveness between people. I don't know, like from my recollection from the evening, I haven't heard anyone from the anti-Bearcat side of things accuse people of being like obsessed with the police or anything like that. And for them to come up after everything everyone said about supporting police and supporting safety and everything, to have them say that people that oppose the Bearcat hate police and aren't looking at the larger picture seems really skewed and uninformed, at least from my point of view. Additionally, there was a lot of things said during the presentation that included issues with fear and the fear of what may happen to the community coming from the anti-Bearcat position. But I want to just point out that throughout your entire presentation, you used fear to justify why you want to get it. There's your worries about other shootings in other places and all these other things that really are meant to communicate fear.
Okay, Mr. Pleisch.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. The ACLU of Northern California has prepared a 64-page report on the militarization of local law enforcement. If they were here today, they would no doubt talk about mission creep and the fact that its 50,000-strong membership supports the process of getting public input before the making of purchase of a vehicle such as the Bearcat. But they're not here tonight. So I will not speak on their behalf. Rather, I will speak on behalf of the ACLU of Santa Cruz. I would like everyone present tonight, whether you were seated on the council dais or in the chamber, outside in the courtyard, or across the street at the Civic Auditorium, to take a moment and look around. This is what our community looks like. And just as importantly, this is what democracy looks like. Our democracy is based on the solid foundation of the freedoms guaranteed to each of us by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And likewise, our community is based upon a foundation of shared values that reflect who we are as a community: compassion, diversity, generosity of spirit, and independence of thought. And it is within the framework of these democratic community values that we come together to examine the questions before us this evening. Many members of the community are concerned about the militarization of local law enforcement, yet nevertheless support the purchase of a Bearcat armored vehicle. Plain fact is that these two issues are inextricably bound together. The Bearcat has become a national symbol of the very militarization that concerns so many.